Oh, honey, cosmic is just my size. Haven't you seen the marquee? I'm a star.
You are a heretic, Agatha Harkness.
Welcome back to another What If Season 3 breakdown with Episode 2, titled, What If Agatha Went to Hollywood? Definitely a what if not a lot of people were expecting. However, this is a what if of Agatha and also a what if of Eternals. Because this is pretty much setting up what happened in the Eternals with the emergence, but also having Agatha and her power-stealing ways. Now, I actually had a little bit more fun with this episode than I did the last episode, which I was honestly surprised by. Now, in this video, we're going to be breaking it down, so let's go into it. Now, when the episode starts off, we see this intro that's kind of like that classic black and white from the 30s to 50s, and it really resembled the era they were taking place in. Howard Stark and Jarvis make their return with their live-action counterparts voicing them with Dominic Cooper and James Darcy. It turns out in this universe that Agatha found Tiamat in the Earth, and she's trying to get its power. Just like how she goes around and steals witches' powers throughout history, now she's trying to take cosmic power for herself. And she's using Howard Stark and his money to fund this big picture so that she has all the money at her disposal to have any kind of equipment, any kind of material and all that so that she can cast her spell in order to access this cosmic power that's under her. And you can even see it with her runes all over the place as she's doing this performance. Agatha wants to recruit Kingo as her co-star because Kingo is an Eternal and she knows this and she needs his help to access that celestial power. Now, when they're talking about Kingo, we see Stark Pictures. Now, Stark Pictures is just a reference to all the major Hollywood studios like Universal Pictures, Paramount Pictures, and all that. That's where they are. They're in Hollywood making films. And then when Kingo does appear, he talks about how he's been preparing for this showdown for a long time, referencing the Eternals preparing for the emergence on Earth, which we first saw in the Eternals movie. And Kingo is even wearing his suit from that movie when he's doing this performance. And it turns out that Kingo already knows what Agatha is planning, and he's there to try to stop her. Agatha making fun of his finger pistols, which we saw during Eternals. And Agatha even has the powers of the other Eternals because she's captured them. She uses Athena's powers, Icarus's powers, Makari's powers, and Gilgamesh. And she even references Ajax in this as well. And it's funny because in this, Agatha mentions how she's borrowing their powers, which you know Agatha likes to steal witches' powers, which is definitely different from her main MCU Earth counterpart. Now, I could say this is Earth 616, but I still refuse to believe that the MCU is 616 because that is the comic universe. Nevertheless, she talks about how she's there to save the world. Now, we know who Agatha is. She's not really there to save the world. She's always using people so that she can accomplish her own goals. The difference here too is that this Agatha was able to take the Eternals' powers without killing them, which we've seen in the MCU that she hasn't actually taken anyone else's powers except other witches, but when she takes those witches' powers, she always kills them, mostly because she can't control her power-hungry absorption, which in this it also seems like maybe she's able to control that power so she doesn't kill them when she's taking them. And it turns out that Arishem made Kingo the prime Eternal because Agatha has taken out the other Eternals. So he's become the de facto leader until he can save his friend and stop Agatha from getting to Tiamat. And we first saw Arishem in Eternals when he's the one that's talking to the Eternals throughout the movie and comes to take them at the end. But eventually Agatha does convince Kingo to work with her and Arishem ends up summoning them both. Now, when he's summoning them, it's the same way he summons the Eternals in the film. They talk about how it would take a power of another Celestial to take him on, which then sets up Agatha and Kingo working together for Agatha to reach Tiamat and take his power. Agatha also convinces Kingo by saying that he get offered a multi-picture deal with Stark Pictures, setting up him and his acting role throughout the MCU, but also showing us his movie posters, which we saw during the Eternals movie. When they're at Howard Stark's home, we see the Hollywood land sign, which is the iconic name of the original Hollywood sign before it was refurbished in 1949. Kingo even makes a reference to D&D in this episode when he talks about we had a Bard of Inspiration, which a Bard of Inspiration is a move from D&D. The Eternals ship makes an appearance in this episode as well, which we first saw in the movie, and it turns out that Howard Stark already knew that Agatha has magic and that Kingo was an alien because he's a genius and he knows these things. We cut the space where we see Arishem on his way to Earth, which I think is the first time we've seen him actually flying to Earth because during the Eternals movie, we saw the Celestials kind of teleporting around. When they go to do their final performance to prepare for Arishem, we see Agatha's candles and her magic turn purple just like how her powers are in the MCU. We see her take Kingo's power just like how she does to the witches in Agatha All Along and WandaVision. When Agatha takes the power of Tiamat, she becomes a Celestial, which even has her pose where she has her arms to the side like we see during WandaVision. It was interesting to see Agatha turn into the Celestial being, and honestly the design was actually pretty well done. This was part of the episode that I thought was actually done really well because some of the visuals in this, just the design, was really cool. And I was surprised. I was honestly surprised how much I enjoyed this episode because I wasn't really expecting to. And I think something that stood out as well was just Kingo and Agatha being very all-star performances as they had fun with the roles, because both respective actors do a good job at playing their characters and enjoying what they're doing and putting their personality within it. Seeing the two giant celestials fight in the sky was interesting, especially when Agatha uses her magic to trap Arishem and take his power, which again she does to all the witches where she normally takes her power. So this Agatha is definitely different from the MCU one, because again, we never really saw Agatha take anyone else's power from the MCU that wasn't a witch. So seeing on this Counter-Earth that she's able to take the power of Celestials and Eternals, it means that the Agatha is different. Or maybe our Agatha just doesn't know how to do that yet, or hasn't even tried. So maybe they might explore something different with that, because they definitely teased some stuff in this episode that wasn't just for What If, and seemed like it was a tease for the MCU. But in this, like typical Agatha, she's not actually here to save the world. She's here to do whatever the hell she wants, because everyone thought she was going to be this hero that was the savior of the planet, but instead, she wanted to rule the planet and change whatever she wants to. Kingo even making a reference that she can just make it a brand new world that she rules. Now, the one thing I felt was kind of off here with Kingo trying to connect with Agatha, because Agatha likes to do whatever she wants. She's a very selfish person, which we have seen that good side of her from Agatha all along. It seemed like Kingo connecting with her to be seen and adored by people instead of being feared with power was an interesting take, because this brought a new light on Agatha. Instead of being this evil witch who was going around the planet and taking this power for herself so she could escape death and become more powerful, she became a movie star so she could be adored by the planet, which she definitely does like that attention, so it does make sense for that standpoint. But I felt like Kingo was able to win her over a little bit too easy. But they also reference that she'll be changing the world through art rather than changing it through cosmic power as she makes movies. And now her and Kingo are kind of like this power couple in Hollywood. And that's going to have a reference to just basic power couples in Hollywood with actors and actresses marrying each other. When the movie was premiering, they were talking to Howard Stark about his weapons manufacturing. Now it looks like because of this movie being such a success, he's going to go into the movie business after the Cosmic Queen instead of making weapons. That means he wouldn't go to the war, which means he probably wouldn't make Captain America's shield, and none of the Captain America events would play out the same way they would in the movie. At the end too, we see the Celestials making an appearance around the Watcher in the sky, because they talk about multiple times about how the Celestials are going to be showing up now because Agatha has taken the power from two of them. Even name dropping a sequel, which is kind of a meta reference to the Eternals getting a sequel after we saw that Arishem took the Eternals away from Earth, and how the other Eternals were going to go find the other Eternals. It also feels like a tease for the rest of What If, with the Celestials showing up in another episode. Because the Celestials are such big characters, they've set them up years ago now in the MCU, but haven't done anything really with them until recently. This episode of What If to give us Celestials once again, and then in Captain America Brave New World, we'll be seeing Tiamat again, with that whole event of that movie and people going after the giant celestial to get adamantium. So they definitely had a fun little meta tease in this and just making fun about the Eternals not getting a sequel because, well, apparently they're not getting a sequel anymore. I just heard a rumor recently that the Eternals might be showing up in the next Thor movie, which is interesting. I've also seen like a fan title card of it saying Godfall with Hercules being in it. So that could be the next movie. None of it's been confirmed because it's just been a rumor so far, but who knows what they're really going to do. It's going to be years till we get that movie anyway, so a lot of stuff is going to change before then. However, I've gone a little bit off topic. This was the next episode of What If. Interested to seeing how this is all going to connect by the end, even though, again, I'm not a huge fan of What If kind of tying into this giant story by the end of the season. They are setting that up, mostly because we know Captain Carter and Kahori are both showing up once again in the series, so at some point, most likely by the last two episodes, they will be making an appearance, and I'm sure one character from each What If is going to be appearing as well. So let me know, what did you think of the newest episode of What If, and were there any other Easter eggs and references you noticed during it? If you like this video, make sure to hit the like and the subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot, and you get to stay up to date with all my Marvel and DC breakdowns. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you tomorrow when there's another What If episode.